It's not helpful. So I really like the inclusion of climate, but also how you wove it together. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for that feedback. That helps us a lot, and we're appreciative that we feel very good that we're moving in the right direction. Would anybody else like to share anything? I see Michael Chan is on the line. If you would like to share anything, I don't want to put you on the spot, but certainly I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak this evening.
I'm actually fine with this. I think this is a good session, so we can look into some of the options.
Michael, I'm having a little bit, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. I don't know if the microphone sound may be too much of a volume thing. Lynette, did you hear Michael? Is it just me? Maybe I can ask someone else.
It was not clear on my end either.
Oh, let me say it again. I think that this is very good. I'm very fine with this.
Oh, okay, great. Good, awesome. Okay, I'm going to go back to the Miro board, and Janet and Kristen, I'm going to defer to the residents on the screen because I know we're going to get a chance to hear from you all once we present this to the full Planning and Transportation Commission.
I feel the same way, Lisa. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. But I'm so glad you're here. This really helps our decision makers hear, the priorities from the community. So let's go to board number 1. I'm going to zoom in here, and this has to do with the 700 block of Laurel Street. And let's go ahead and start with concept number 1, which was introduced to you this evening as the promenade. And feel free to jump in if you need me to zoom in a little bit more. I can certainly do that. So just to try and reacquaint you with what's being shown here is at the bottom are some visual cues about what the space could potentially look like or what we may be able to draw inspiration from. But the promenade is the 700 block in between Cherry and Olive Street, as all of you know, which is closed today. And so the idea is to transform that into a more beautified space that can accommodate all of the things that we would like to see happen in this new created public space. In this example, it's bookended by this grove of trees over by Olive and over by Cherry. You can see that it's more symmetrical or has kind of a more ordered appearance as opposed to the garden design that we'll look at next. There's this idea to create, a water feature like a central plaza kind of right in the center of this particular distance. And then really preserve Harrington Park as its legacy as a place for music, a stage for a host of different things, whether that can be a theater, some sort of performance, music, and have some more green space and lawn space. The back end can be serviced by, by trucks for whatever needs to happen in that area. And all of these icons here really pay homage to what we've heard from the community, that whatever we do, there should be shade, there should be public art. We need, obviously, a clearly defined pedestrian path. Although we want to allow bikes, but how do we manage that? We want space for outdoor dining. There needs to be fire access, maybe some areas for play, places for community events, places that can really accommodate the ecology of the area, urban ecology, if you will, and so forth. And that it really be inclusive to people can walk their dogs and really just enjoy this space. So I'm going to pause here and see what kind of comments you all may have about the promenade concept. And I see Sonia's hand raised. So Sonia, please go ahead and share.
Hi, thank you. I love all the ideas and suggestions that have been presented. I love the micromobility, accessibility, the shade. I mean, really, I love everything that's been presented. I just I have a question. I haven't heard a lot about how do we protect retail? What percentage? How do we make sure that to what extent does the city of San Carlos rely on the retail and the revenue from downtown, and how will that be affected? And how can we make sure that with are we relying on the drawing on the draw that Laurel Street will become in terms of all the people that it will draw, who will also then shop Is there a, yeah, I just want to, I would love to know the financial feasibility, how much we, each particular plan promotes the financial part and how much we rely as a city on that being super robust, and will there be a transition period? I just want to make sure that the city of San Carlos gets what it needs from a financial perspective too.
Yes, thank you, Sonia. That's a very good point, and something that we are definitely taking a lot of thoughtful consideration of. Vibrancy with respect to the prosperity of businesses, all business in the downtown is a key principle that that we are definitely taking very seriously. Part of the sub-consultant team does include experts that are, deal with the economics of this plan, as well as retail vibrancy and being able to promote, finding ways, different programs where we can definitely lift up the businesses that we have today. Part of all of this also, what's not being talked about today is that we're preparing a parking management plan. You're looking at different parking strategies, because the vitality of our businesses and they're being able to be successful is that people can have access to them. So access is very important, and we're not keeping cars out, but we need to manage cars, and we need to make sure that the parking that we're providing is managed and that people know where to go, so that there's wayfinding to access that parking, and that when they get there, they can feel very confident that they're going to find a space and then be able to navigate through our downtown. So while the designs tonight are really kind of showcasing kind of how these streets could be transformed, right now we're just looking at the 700 block, which will be permanently closed, but the other blocks we definitely want to have open, although we recognize there is a need to have wider sidewalks, so that what wants to occur in these sidewalk spaces to accommodate more foot traffic, and also considering that this is a 20-year plan. The longevity of the specific plan will go out to the year 2040. So we need to make sure that what these modifications and transformations are doing is able to capture and think about that additional growth, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And probably what we will see more of that's reflected through policies and programs for the businesses is basically going to be just that, reflected in policies and programs. It's hard to conceive of how we're going to address businesses in these public realm spaces, but we want to make sure that the public realm is set up, kind of sets the table for all the things that want to happen in the downtown area, like the farmers market, all the different events that our parks department puts on, that it's done in a way that really meets the businesses, interacts with the business in a way that's conducive for both of these things to take place at the same time, rather than any activity turning its back on and covering up the storefront businesses. So this is something that we've been hearing a lot about from the business community. We're going to continue to engage them, and we're obviously going to need a phasing plan. Once we decide, what is the ultimate idea or concept that we as a community want to support, there will need to be a phasing plan, and to figure out how do we, encourage these businesses to remain viable during this transformation period. So it's a really good point, something that we're taking very seriously, and I'm glad you brought it up. I see.
Can I add to that a little bit?
Oh, thank you, Al. I didn't know you were here.
Really quick.
Mhm.
And so one of the questions was, does the city rely on downtown for, from an economic standpoint? And frankly, the downtown, from a dollars perspective, doesn't add very much to the city in terms of the impact to the city's economic vitality, or, well, it does, but it's not significant enough to where, let's say, we rely on downtown. There's other economic factors in the city that are much more significant in terms of the dollars that it brings to the city. However, what's important about the downtown, one is sort of the ecosystem of it, meaning the businesses, you know, any changes that we do there, we, like Lisa said, I think, is that we have to make sure that it's fair and there's some equality and diversity in the kinds of uses, because our downtown is really the living room of the city. It's the heart of the city. And so even businesses that are, let's say, on the east side of the city, those jobs come to the city because they see that we have a fantastic and vibrant downtown. The downtown is an amenity. So while it doesn't bring significant dollars, let's say, to the broader community, to the city's funding ability, it's very, very important to make sure that it's economically diverse and sustainable as a community asset, and something that is so important to the community as a whole. So just to add a little bit there. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. I want to check with Mark and Caroline. I don't know if your hand was raised from before, or if you want to speak to the promenade. Uh-oh, are we? Oh, you're still here. You're on mute. There you are.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I do have, I think I like the other plan better than this one, but I do have a question and a comment here. The question is, currently the restaurants and other retail organizations have walls all up and down the street, and it's kind of closed off. And I know one of the feedbacks earlier on was, hey, let's make sure it's open. Do both plans here contemplate that if there's tables outside, it's open seating, kind of European style, so you could see people and not feel like it's a bunch of rooms out there?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's not shown here, but hopefully you can see my cursor, is that why having this area completely open, we will have space along the frontage of the building face to have some tables and chairs and some umbrellas. We know that the parklet design right now isn't working. We've heard that loud and clear, and they're really kind of blocking off the storefronts. So that's something that we need to address. We're going to look at that closely and dive a little bit more into the details and provide some parameters for any business that wants to have a plaza facing or plaza, oriented experience, that they will be able to have a certain amount of space, and there will be design guidelines for what they can do. And we certainly will be making sure that none of these dining experiences really kind of are blocking the views of any particular business. So that's exactly the idea, is that they really be opened up. So what you see today is not going to be any part of a long-term plan for this area. We would address that and make it more open and inviting. Yeah.
Great. Cool. Go ahead.
I'll add that I think this plan has lots of important elements. And like Mark said, I think I prefer the garden approach a little bit better. And Al's comment about the central Laurel being the living room of the community, I think that resonates with me. And for me, a vibrant downtown encourages people to gather and to stroll and just interact. And having things in such a linear pattern, to me, are not as conducive to that. So just like in my living room, I don't want all the chairs and furniture lined up along the walls. I want congregation areas or other curves and gathering opportunities.
That's really good to hear. Maybe this is a good segue to the garden concept. Before I move, and I want to keep us moving along because there's other areas where I want to get your input, but does anybody else want to? Sonia, I see your hand raised. I don't know.
Lisa, I've got one more, but I can hold it till later unless other people have a chance.
Oh, okay. Well, let's have you speak since you had the floor. Go ahead and continue.
I triple exclamation points on bicycles, and here's why. I think we're emblematic of others in that we sold our second car and bought 2 e-bikes, which we ride safely around town. We're also expecting there'll be lots of bicycles in the new east side, just like Google has campus bicycles that go around to move locally and go to lunch and so on. So in both plans, there's not a great bike circulation thought that I can see. It makes sense that a pedestrian area would be a pedestrian area, and that you'd have good parking for bikes just like cars somewhere. So I'll just trust in that. But cars, when they move around these pedestrian areas, can go out to El Camino or back around to Walnut and circle around. Bicycles can't do that. El Camino is totally unsafe and not inviting to boot. And so we need some way for bikes to be able to move, and maybe it's the alleys behind that end up with some sort of a bicycle magic carpet, green striping around, or maybe it's some other solution. But I think we want to encourage safe and enjoyable biking for both kids and adults, and for people like us who have replaced their cars and don't take up a parking space as much as we can. And I don't see that we've solved that sort of moving around and through downtown. And it does not make sense in this current set of plans to be bicycling through the middle of the town living room. So we need to have some other positive alternative included, please.
Thank you for that comment. Yeah, that's absolutely right. This is more of a pedestrian zone. It could be a bike dismount zone. And as you know, and lots of people have traveled in different places where somehow the bicycles are integrated with the pedestrians and somehow it just works, but it sort of is like a cultural shift and a different mindset. Who knows, maybe we could get there one day, but we want to make sure safety is our priority. So that's something that we're going to be thinking about. I think that's an excellent comment. If at least anything, making sure that we have bicycle infrastructure, such as bicycle parking, safe bicycle parking for people to park, their e-bikes, which are not cheap, and be able to enjoy the downtown. So that is absolutely something that we are looking at as part of circulation, as part of parking. Yeah.
Yeah, just to ask to do the thought experiment, just like you do with cars, and how they're going to get east, west, south, north, and around. How would a bicycle do that? And I can't run that thought experiment with the current plans because there is no place for a bike to go around the downtown safely yet.
Okay, Mark, I'm going to shift to others that maybe want to make a few remarks about the promenade. And I'm looking for hands. I don't see any, so I am going to go ahead and go over to concept number 2, the gardens. And Mark and Carolyn, I'm going to come to you next because I know you made your comment that you like it. And I just want to see if anyone else wants to kick us off on this particular board. Again, looking for any kind of comments that you might have. Again, I'll zoom in a little bit closer. Like you all are familiar with what James shared. This is more meandering and it creates pockets of little areas that can be dedicated to different types of activation, whether it's something quiet, you just want to sit and read a book, maybe something that has, a little bit more activity, Central Plaza, Fountain. It essentially has the same kind of, we want to provide for the same types of activities, but done in a different kind of presentation. So let me look in the room here and see if I notice any hands up. Right now, I don't. And we can certainly move on. I did get the feedback that from Mark and Carolyn that you have a lean towards the garden concept, which is helpful. We're not really asking people to choose one or the other. We're looking for the things that you like, recognizing that what we eventually land on could be something a little bit different. Maybe it could be one of these, depending upon what kind of feedback we get from the community. But we're at this stage where we just want to hear from the community. We're presenting these as conversation starters. So if there's something that you really like about one, what is it that you like about it? And maybe that helps us kind of figure out where we might land. So
Lisa, could you scroll down just a little bit? I think the pictures really help give examples of what those event plazas might have or whatever. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. So here's a nice photo of a plaza that's no curb. As you can see, this is the idea for the 700 block, that with no curb. So building face to building face. And then all kinds of interesting things can happen, in between: lighting, tree seating, active areas near restaurants, maybe quiet areas in the middle. This is an example of kind of a linear water feature that this is bigger than what we have, but it's a concept that could be integrated, sort of creates an interesting way to make our downtown unique and pop and stand out from other areas. Places where we can see outdoor theater. Oh, I think we have a very short time period left. I think we didn't get the full 5 minutes that we need. But we will have more opportunity for all of you to weigh in on. So in case we get pulled back into the main room, I apologize for that, but we will definitely have more options for us to be able to get your feedback. Any final comments on the gardens? Michael, would you like to please go?
Not really a comment. I just want to get clarification. So in this garden design, there's a pre-designed central walkway. So there's a sort of a path that can go through.
There is a walkway that would go through. There would be a definite delineation where we want pedestrians, kind of like the main path of travel within these concepts, but there'll also be areas that are